Hey folks, today I'd like to talk about Gavin Newsom, currently the governor of California. And I was watching CNN the other day and I caught wind of this debate that's coming up between Newsom and DeSantis. Now, I'm not sure what all this is about, except perhaps two dueling governors offering their very diametric points of view and political platforms on how to govern their respective states. And perhaps, too, an inkling of what either one of them might be like as a presidential candidate. Now, many people say, Newsom running as the Democratic nominee for president in the 2024 elections is a no-brainer. But he has not declared his candidacy, and he has also said that he will not contest Joe Biden. But that, still leaves a possibility that if Biden should say, you know what, I've done my run, I'm going to hand this off to a younger generation, Gavin Newsom might be the right guy. So this piqued my interest as to whether he would be a viable candidate for the highest office in the land. Newsom's got a pretty good record. He was the mayor of San Francisco for two terms, elected back in 2003 and 2007, respectively. And he did a lot for the city in terms of, making a bit of a sanctuary city in some respects for immigrants, but also protecting LGBTQ rights. Backing legalized marijuana and a number of other things that sort of fall within the liberal portfolio. Since then, he went on to serve 4 years as lieutenant governor of California, and again supported similar propositions and legislation. And then, since I forgot what year it was, 2018, he was elected as governor of California. And again, he has pretty much continued his agenda of trying to make California, a bit of a model state for a modern America with great use of technology. He unfortunately had to manage, outbreak of COVID, which was, a big drag on the economy and perhaps on his political career. There was a proposition to recall him from office, which went to a vote, but that was defeated and he remains in office. So here we are today where, undeniably he's an attractive guy in many respects, both physically and seemingly in terms of personality. He came from very modest beginnings, just sort of an ordinary family, had dyslexia as a child, had to work really hard to succeed in school and to get through university. Married once, divorced once, had an affair with, a subordinate sometime there during his term, I believe, as either a mayor of San Francisco or lieutenant governor, I think as mayor of San Francisco, has apologized and moved on and since remarried and now has 3 kids. Anyway, poised now to, become a very viable candidate as the Democratic presidential nominee if Biden would step out of the way. So all this makes me wonder, is he a good candidate? To answer that, let's go to the horoscope. Okay, so here's the horoscope in question. Newsom was born 10th of October, 1967, 5:13 a.m. in San Francisco. So here we have a Leo rising chart. Cast a look at the Kendras, and right away we see Mars in its own sign in the Scorpio fourth. So, this constitutes a Ruchika Yoga, one of the 5 Panchamahaprusha yogas, highly esteemed. Incidentally, with Mars being one of the Kshatriya planets, this is, one of the signatures for, rulership, command and control disposition, the capacity for governance or leadership or whatever other adjective you want to toss up in that context. So that's all well and good. Jupiter and Venus are the other 2 angular planets. Now, coincidentally, Speaking of caste, Jupiter and Venus are both members of the Brahmin caste. So basically, custodians of art, culture, history, the judiciary, arts and entertainment, all these things. Jupiter, counselor to the Devas, and Venus, counselor to the Asuras. So both planets are representative of the capacity to dispense advice, judgment, wisdom. So that's an interesting, circumstance here in his horoscope as well. So back to yogas. As I say, principally we see Mars forming Ruchika yoga in the fourth house. Then if we cast around looking for the, dharma-karma adipati yogas, that is some combination of a trinal lord. In this case, that would be Sun, Jupiter, and Mars combined with a Kendra lord. Sun, Mars, Saturn, and Venus. Well, there's one right there. Sun as the ascendant lord and Saturn as the seventh lord forms one of these dharma-karma adipati yogas. The Sun functioning here as a trinal lord, Saturn as a Kendra lord. Saturn is strong because during its retrograde phase, it is brighter than normal. So that lends that yoga some strength. There's also another yoga here with Jupiter and Venus. So keep in mind we're looking for trinal lords combined with Kendra lords. So here Jupiter is the trinal lord, lord of the fifth, while Venus is the Kendra lord of the 10th. So this is another dharma-karma adipati yoga. But this gets elevated and is actually one of the true Raja yogas. When you have combinations of 4 and 5, 4 and 9, 5 and 10, and 9 and 10. Those are the 4 true Raja yogas. And this Jupiter-Venus combination is one of those. Jupiter, Lord of the 5th, Venus, Lord of the 10th. Now, examine them for any source of strength, and you see that Jupiter gets Digbala in the first house. So this yoga is empowered. So that's a good one. It's a good one for anybody, but especially for a politician. Here's why. In politics, it's highly valued to have lords of the 5th and the 10th in some form of sambandha. By which we mean, association, mutual aspect, parivartana, or sometimes even unilateral aspect when one of those planets disposits the other. But here you have, the most obvious and simple form. Jupiter and Venus, Lord of 5 and 10 respectively, are associated. So, and they're associated in the ascendant. It's like it brings their qualities home to the individual. And what qualities are we talking about? Well, in a political context, the 5th house represents, let's call it portfolio management. It's sort of like the place for ministers, or in the American political system as secretary. Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Transport, etc., etc. In many other countries, Canada, for instance, and Great Britain, they would be ministers of defense or ministers of public affairs or whatever the case. So this role of minister as being a portfolio handler within the ambit of governmental jurisdiction. So portfolio management is a critical thing because you're able to manage something. For instance, Newsom, in the early part of his career, when he was, before he became mayor, he was part of, I guess it would be the city council, and his portfolio was basically traffic management for the city of San Francisco. And among the projects he handled was the expansion of the Muni system, the commuter light rail, both underground and above ground for the San Francisco area. So that reflects portfolio management, simply the fifth lord. Then the 10th. Why is the 10th important? Well, the 10th is actual, administration, management. You could say bureaucracy, I guess, to some degree, but it is the authority, the command and control function of anybody at whatever level of government they operate in. Incidentally, for anybody who's wondering, there are three key houses, bhavas, related to governmental aptitude. The fifth for portfolio management, the 10th for administrative skills, the ninth for judicial or legislative activities. Now, what's most important for most politicians is, the command and control element, the 10th house, and the fifth house for management of one's portfolio. And even if it's not something as specific as transportation or defense, managing a government overall is a portfolio in and of itself. So he has this, these signatures of leadership. Mars, the Ruchika Yoga, drawing from the Kshatriya caste and the command and control disposition. Jupiter and Venus as lords of 5 and 10, respectively, as a critical signature for political abilities. Now there's a few other things going on in his horoscope, but nothing really that compare to those. Needless to say, the fourth house is very strong because Mars owns and occupies that space. The fifth house is also strong as well, too, because Jupiter, which is the lord of the fifth, Jupiter aspects the fifth house as well, too. And so those two houses are particularly strong. So vis-a-vis the fourth house, reflects fundamental education. But for a politician, it represents one's constituency, the people that one represents. So whether that be in early days, the citizens of San Francisco, or even, demographics within, whether they be specific communities, I don't know, let's pick the LGBTQ community, for whom, Newsom has been a friend. He's kind of a liberal dream in many ways because he's pro-abortion, or pro-choice, I guess is what I should say, but he's willing to do things to protect women's access to abortion, certainly in California, and in a way sort of position California as a sanctuary state for citizens of other states who are denied their access to abortion and got to go somewhere else. He's also pro-gun control as well, too. He's not against the Second Amendment, but he wants, proper guardrails put in place, raising the age for ownership of guns, restricting the sale of unregistered weapons, restricting the sale of assault weapons. Most, rational citizens would get behind this. Again, this sort of reflects the constituency backing that he might very well have, not only in his home state of California, but perhaps in the hearts and minds of, rational people across America. And the fifth house, back to, management of his portfolio. And despite his dyslexia, this guy, he thinks on his feet, and he's pretty quick-witted, and I'm looking forward to catching the debate between him and DeSantis. This will be interesting. So what makes all this all the more interesting is, guess what dasha-bhukti he's running right now? Jupiter dasha, Venus bhukti. These very two planets, Lord of 5 and 10 respectively, that form a Raja Yoga with some strength in the ascendant, bringing it on home, if you like, to the man and his character. And, the first house is personality, charisma, name, and fame, and, cachet for the name. So this is all well and good. Now, if there's a fly in the ointment, it is only that he's running Jupiter-Venus now up until the middle of August. of 2024. And then he will go into Jupiter, continue in Jupiter Dasha and go into Sun Bhukti. So that may be just a little bit more problematic. The Sun doesn't have any strength, although to its credit, it is the ascendant Lord, and it is involved in a dharma-karma adhipati yoga, so that's good. Sun is in a moon nakshatra, and as per the principles of both Nadi astrology and also Krishnamurti Padati, a planet in its period will primarily give the results for its nakshatra lord. So Sun will, during its bhukti, will give results for the moon. And the moon certainly occupies a good place. And, is it afflicted? No, it's not afflicted. Oh, yes, it is afflicted by Saturn, but it's also aspected by Jupiter, which it disposits. So there's sambandha between Moon and Jupiter. Moon is disposited by Jupiter and also aspected by Jupiter. So basically that probably trumps the aspect of Saturn on the moon. Anyway, all well and good. I think this looks pretty promising. Now I'm really, kind of sitting on the edge of my seat to see this debate between Newsom and DeSantis sometime in November. I was, as I said, watching CNN, and I've forgotten his name. Michael Smerconish, I guess, is on Saturday mornings, and he was, speculating that this is maybe kind of a put-up case, a test run to see Newsom perform in public against one of the primary Republican candidates. Because if Trump gets put in jail or gets removed from enough state ballots, that the GOP will have to ditch him as a candidate and run with DeSantis instead. This could be a kind of a prequel or a trailer as to what a face-off between those guys could be. Anyway, I'm thinking this looks pretty good for Newsom. Very interesting candidate for all the reasons that I've stated here. Okay, so back for just a minute to gather up a loose thread or two that I didn't include in the main discussion. So we don't have the horoscope in front of you now, but let me just talk to this. So, frequently I will do what I refer to as a kind of a career analysis potential for, anybody of interest. And basically this is sort of a Sudarshan technique where we look at the ascendant from, those 3 points of view, the Udaya Lagna, what we call the sort of real physical ascendant in the eastern horizon, Chandra Lagna, moon as ascendant, and Surya Lagna, which sun is ascendant. So noting the signs in which each of those are placed, noting any associations or aspects upon the Lagna, the moon, or the sun, and also with respect to their dispositors, what signs have they gone to, and what are the associations or aspects upon them. Basically, it's to get a complete picture around the horoscope of which planet or planets are most influencing those 3 primary lagnas. So sometimes it gets spread out quite a bit, and other times there's a distinct focus. In Newsom's case, it's a bit spread out, but three planets are primary, and those are Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. And then we look to see, where lies the primary influence. We can treat those planets as pointers and say, to which houses do they point and draw attention. And so the primary one there is Jupiter and Venus both aspect the 7th house, and incidentally, Saturn rules that 7th house. So it's one place to look and suggest something vis-a-vis, a skill set or an aptitude that the person might have. So in this case, 7th house. What does that mean? Relationship building. So, it's a bit of a no-brainer to say that, politicians at whatever level really have to reach out and quite literally going around shaking hands and kissing babies and all the rest of that. But outreach, both to their constituents and people that believe in them already, but also to those who are cynical or undecided or independents or literally on the other side of the voting camp, whose hearts and minds you need to win over for your own good reasons and perhaps, in one's belief, whatever is best for, state or country or whatever the case may be. So, a good politician has to be a consummate, PR person. Public relations is the game there for at least a year during the active running, first to be a presidential nominee and then to actually campaign for that role. So again, the three pointers, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, all end up, highlighting the seventh house as that primary zone of influence. And what's interesting is that he's running Jupiter, Venus as we speak. He will go into Jupiter, Sun just a few months before, the next general election in America. And the Sun is his ascendant lord, and it does engage with Saturn, who is the other pointer planet. So, all in all, this can line up to be quite a successful era for him, and, perhaps the best that exists. If he doesn't go for this now, this dasha-bhukti will pass. I mean, Jupiter dasha will continue, but, the Venus bhukti will be gone. Anyway, it may be a question of strike while the iron is hot. Anyway, we shall see. I'm looking forward to that debate between Newsom and DeSantis. So, all right, enough for today. See you another time. Bye.